Coming to you live from Angkasapuri, I'm Mohana Priya, and this is Updates at Noon. Making the headlines today, PM to solidify position with a vote of confidence. Positive market sentiments following clarity in Malaysia's political situation. Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim has clocked in at Perdana Putra in Putrajaya today for his first day of work as Prime Minister. He arrived at the main block of Perdana Putra, which houses the Prime Minister's office, at about 9:55 a.m., greeted by Chief Secretary to the Government, Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali. Also present to witness the historic moment were Public Services Department Director General Datuk Sri Muhammad Shafiq Abdullah, Attorney General Tan Sri Idrus Harun, Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani, and Army Chief General Tan Sri Zamros Mohammad Zain. Datuk Sri Anwar clocked in at his office on level 5 of the building, and this was followed by the reading of prayers led by Prime Minister's Department Integrity Officer Mohammad Ridza Ahmad before the Premier signed the welcome book. Yesterday, Datuk Sri Anwar, 75, took his oath as the nation's 10th Prime Minister after being named by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah. The unity government formed with the participation of several coalition parties will ensure the stability of the country and its economy, as well as uphold the spirit of the federal constitution. In his maiden media conference as Prime Minister last night, Datuk Sri Anwar said the three largest coalition blocs forming the government were Pakatan Harapan, Barisan Nasional and Gabungan Parti Sarawak. He said PH was the largest bloc with 82 MPs, BN 30, while GPS, as confirmed by its chairman Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg, had 23, stressing that the question of stability within the government was not an issue. Datuk Sri Anwar said the unity government also had the participation of Warisan, Muda and Parti Bangsa Malaysia, adding that the possibility of other parties also joining cannot be ruled out.
This is a national unity government. All are welcome on condition you accept the fundamental rules of good governance, no corruption, and Malaysia for all Malaysians. Malaysia is more than 6 decades old. Every Malaysian, regardless of ethnicity, religious belief, or region, particularly Sabah and Sarawak, should be left to feel that they are ignored in any way. None should be marginalized under my administration.
On the manifestos by different parties in the unity government, the Premier replied that the government would never compromise on core issues raised, including on the issue of good governance, anti-corruption, judiciary independence, and more importantly, the welfare of the rakyat. Asked about the appointment of a Deputy Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Anwar said normally the position is given to the second biggest bloc in the government. Datuk Sri Anwar also revealed that the first sitting of the 15th Parliament session under his government will be held on 19th December. He said the first order of business would be the tabling of a motion of confidence to end the question of his legitimacy as Prime Minister.
I, in fact, have asked PH to propose a vote of confidence on the first day of Parliament. Okay? But we are committed to a spirit of unity government, which means we are open to discussions for those who want to participate in that process.
Datuk Sri Anwar said during the session, the government would also table and approve emoluments for civil servants first before the 2023 budget is tabled again. Meanwhile, when asked about his decision to not take a salary as Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Anwar reiterated that his decision would not change. He said the decision is an effort to regain the people's confidence towards the government, ministries and party leadership.
Saya telah mengumumkan bahawa langkah pertama untuk memulihkan keyakinan rakyat supaya tidak melihat menteri-menteri dan pemimpin itu tanpa kira parti, tanpa kira agama, semuanya fikir gaji, kepentingan, kontrak, saham, maka saya memilih untuk menolak gaji Perdana Menteri.
However, Datuk Sri Anwar did not specify a period or duration that he would not take a salary as the Prime Minister. Next Monday has been announced as a public holiday in conjunction with the formation of the unity government and the appointment of Datuk Sri Anwar as the country's 10th Prime Minister. The public holiday was initially proposed for today, but later decided to move it to Monday so as to allow the Bursa Malaysia's upward trend to continue after showing positive movement since yesterday.
Saya bersyukur kerana hari ini dan sebelumnya keadaan dan keyakinan telah juga berubah. Ringgit diperkuat dan bursa saham beriskan. Oleh sebab itu, saya memutuskan supaya hari esok tidak menjadi cuti umum. Tetapi diganti dengan hari Isnin. Ini saya bincang dengan Ketua Sosial Negara dan juga Yang Ketua Agung kerana saya sudah janji untuk memberi cuti hari Isnin. Tetapi hari Isnin belum beres usaha perubahan kerajaan. Hari ini dibereskan, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, dan saya akan menepati janji dan ajakkan Isnin minggu depan.
Now, the ringgit continued its positive momentum this morning, rising by 0.38% against the US dollar at the opening today, reflecting the positive sentiments following the clarity in Malaysia's political tussle and the United States Federal Reserve's signal of a downshift in rate hikes. SBI Asset Management Managing Director Stefan Ines said there was a huge follow-through on Malaysia's stock market following the appointment of Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim as Malaysia's 10th Prime Minister, which helped the ringgit to attract foreign investments. Meanwhile, Bursa Malaysia's key index was slightly easier this morning as profit-taking started to emerge following the strong gains yesterday, with mild selling in blue chips led by Axiata and Maxis, while the broader market remained positive. At 9:06 a.m., the benchmark FTSE Bursa Malaysia KLCI slipped 0.26 of a point to 1,501.62 from 1,501.88 on Thursday. The market bellwether opened 0.18 of a point lower at 1,501.7. Turnover stood at 740.72 million units, worth 220.09 million ringgit. FBM KLCI rallied with 4.04% hike yesterday, partly driven by Datuk Sri Anwar's appointment as Prime Minister. Now we have received word from Perdana Putra. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim has called on the cooperation of all civil servants to help the rakyat. In a brief media briefing just now, he said while the stock market has reacted positively to the news of the formation of the unity government, his main concern now is to alleviate the living cost of ordinary Malaysians and come up with an immediate solution. To this end, the Premier said he will be meeting with the relevant government agencies by Monday. In the short briefing, Datuk Sri Anwar also reveals that the Gabungan Rakyat Sabah, GRS, will be joining the unity government under his leadership. We will bring you more updates as the situation develops. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim described Indonesia as a true friend to Malaysia and hoped that the two countries could improve relations in various aspects, including trade and investment. Datuk Seri Anwar, who conveyed the matter through a phone conversation with Indonesian President Joko Widodo, also hoped that both countries could resolve the issue involving the labour force. On a Facebook post, the Premier emphasised that Indonesia is Malaysia's true friend and he hoped that trade and business relations, investment, culture and labour issues can be improved. According to the post, the Indonesian leader, who is better known as Jokowi, became the first head of state to contact Datuk Seri Anwar to congratulate him on his appointment as the 10th Prime Minister yesterday. In a congratulatory letter appended to the media, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has congratulated Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim and Pakatan Harapan for its strong performance at the general election. Lee said that he looked forward to meeting Datuk Seri Anwar soon to discuss the common issues facing the two countries and how Malaysia and Singapore can further advance their bilateral relationship. Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim also received a congratulatory call from Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The call came when Datuk Seri Anwar was about to address the nation in his first press conference as the country's Prime Minister. Datuk Seri Anwar, in the conversation that lasted about 10 minutes, expressed hope that Malaysia and Turkey would strengthen ties and cooperation in many areas, including trade, business, culture, education and military. Meanwhile, foreign missions in the country have sent congratulatory messages to Datuk Seri Anwar, who was appointed as Malaysia's Prime Minister. The first congratulatory message, which came in soon after Datuk Seri Anwar took oath at 5 p.m, was from the United States Ambassador to Malaysia, Brian D. McFeeters. Australia's High Commissioner to Malaysia, Dr. Justin Lee, in his official Twitter account, also sent out a message to congratulate the Premier. Japan's ambassador to Malaysia, Takahashi Katsuhiko, in congratulating Datuk Seri Anwar, said he sincerely hoped that the new government would lead Malaysia in unity and further promote Japan-Malaysia relations. Now, the news on Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's appointment as Malaysia's 10th Prime Minister has gone worldwide. Major news outlets around the world highlighted the appointment, marking the end of a political impasse following the 15th general election last Saturday, which resulted in an unprecedented hung parliament, which also received wide international media coverage. It also marked the end of almost 3 decades of struggle for Datuk Seri Anwar to see this day. Among media organisations that flashed the news on Datuk Seri Anwar's appointment are the BBC, CNN, Xinhua, CGTN, Nikkei Asia, Indonesia's Antara News and Singapore's CNA. Reuters, Al Jazeera and other international news agencies too delved into the appointment. In another article headlined Anwar Ibrahim, the man who fulfilled his goal to lead Malaysia, BBC chronicled Anwar's political struggle over the span of more than 20 years and his rise to the country's top job. Reuters ran at least 4 stories related to Anwar's appointment to the premiership, with the first one titled Malaysia's Anwar Becomes Prime Minister, Ending Decades-Long Wait. South China Morning Post SCMP highlighted the news with headline Opposition Leader No More, Anwar Ibrahim is Malaysia's 10th Prime Minister. Meanwhile, Singapore's CNA published a commentary piece by political observer James Chin titled Snap Insight, Anwar Finally Becomes Malaysia PM. His success depends on who he includes in his cabinet. Chin too noted Anwar and his administration will face an uphill task in rebuilding the country's economy. At least 2 die in Saudi storm. That and more coming up in the foreign segments. At least 2 people died yesterday as heavy rains hit western Saudi Arabia, including the coastal city of Jeddah, delaying flights and forcing schools in the affected areas to close. The Makkah region includes Jeddah, the kingdom's second largest city of roughly 4 million people, and Makkah City, the holiest city in Islam, where millions perform the Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages each year. The road connecting the two, which many pilgrims use to reach Makkah, was closed yesterday once the rains began, although it was later reopened. In Jeddah, images posted on social media showed standing water snarling traffic and partially submerging some vehicles. The city's King Abdulaziz International Airport said that due to weather conditions, the departure of some flights had been delayed and urged passengers to contact carriers for up-to-date schedule. The official Saudi press agency reported before dawn that schools in the city would temporarily be closed as rains were forecast to continue throughout the day. Schools were also closed in the nearby towns of Rabigh and Kulais to preserve the safety of students. Winter rainstorms and flooding occur almost every year in Jeddah, where residents have long decried poor infrastructure. Floods killed 123 people in the city in 2009 and 10 more 2 years later. The United Nations Human Rights Council condemned Iran's repression of peaceful demonstrators following the death of Mahsa Amini and voted to create a high-level investigation into the deadly crackdown. Now, despite heavy lobbying by Tehran and a last-minute effort by China to undercut the resolution, a broader-than-expected majority of the 47-member council backed launching a probe of Iran's response to the ongoing protests. Thunderous applause erupted when the resolution passed with 25 votes in favour, 16 abstaining, and only 6 countries, Armenia, China, Cuba, Eritrea, Pakistan and Venezuela, opposed. The vote came at the end of an urgent session requested by Germany and Iceland with the backing of 50 countries to discuss the situation in Iran, rocked by 2 months of protests. Those demonstrations were sparked by the death in custody of 22-year-old Amini after she was arrested for an alleged breach of the country's dress code for women.
From what we could gather, around 14,000 people, including children, have so far been arrested in the context of these protests. This is a staggering number.
UN Rights Chief Volker Turk said that more than 300 people had been killed since Amini's death. He also decried the fact that at least 6 death sentences had been handed down to demonstrators. EU energy ministers failed to agree on a cap on gas prices to mitigate the energy crunch in Europe, amid deep divisions of an initial proposal slammed by many as a joke. The ministers will now meet in the first half of December to try to bridge differences. Several ministers going into yesterday's meeting complained that the gas price cap proposal on the table, unveiled by the European Commission just 2 days earlier, was clearly designed to never be used. The Polish and Spanish energy ministers called the proposal a joke.
But this was an opening debate which would serve as a starting point for the agreement we want to reach in December.
The price cap plan sets a maximum threshold of €275 per megawatt hour. But it comes with so many conditions attached that it would not even have been activated back in August when the gas price briefly soared above €300, alarming Europe used to historic prices around 10% of that. The cap proposal would only be triggered if the €275 limit was breached continuously for at least 2 weeks, and then only if the price for liquefied natural gas rose above €58 for 10 days within that same 2-week period. During the discussions, the ministers, however, did manage to adopt a couple of other important measures, including joint gas purchases to avoid intra-EU competition, driving up prices, supply solidarity in times of need, and hastening authorization of renewable energy sources. Meanwhile, Ukraine battled yesterday to reconnect water and electricity services to millions of people cut off after Russia launched dozens of cruise missiles that battered Ukraine's already crippled electricity grid. Now, the energy system in Ukraine is on the brink of collapse, and millions have been subjected to emergency blackouts over recent weeks after systematic Russian bombardments of the grid. The World Health Organization has warned of life-threatening consequences and estimated that millions could leave their homes as a result. By yesterday evening, more than 24 hours after the Russian strikes smashed Kiev, the city's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said 60% of homes were still suffering emergency outages. However, city officials said water services had been fully restored. The shelling had killed 7 people at Vyshgorod on the outskirts of the capital. And a fresh round of strikes yesterday killed at least 4 people in the southern city of Kherson, recently recaptured by Ukraine. The latest attacks on the power grid come with winter setting in and temperatures in the capital hovering just above freezing. Now, many previously suspended Twitter accounts will be allowed back on the platform after a landslide of users responding to an informal poll by new owner Elon Musk voted in favor of the move. Now, responding to the poll, Musk tweeted that the amnesty would begin next week. The announcement comes as Musk faces pushback that his criteria for content moderation is subject to his personal whim, with reinstatements decided for certain accounts and not others. Of 3.16 million respondents to Musk's poll question, 72.4% said Twitter should allow suspended accounts back on Twitter as long as they have not broken laws or engaged in egregious spam. It was the same type of yes or no informal poll of Twitter users that Musk devised to decide in favor of reinstating former President Donald Trump on the platform. A blanket amnesty for suspended accounts could potentially alarm government authorities that are keeping a close look at Musk's handling of hateful speech since he bought the influential platform for $44 billion. It could also spook Apple and Google, tech titans that have the power to ban Twitter from their mobile app stores over content concerns. Next in sports, Brazil begins a 6th World. Stay with us. Now, 15 local and foreign teams have confirmed their participation in the first International and National Hockey Development Program tournament beginning tomorrow until 2nd December at the Bukit Jalil National Hockey Stadium in Kuala Lumpur. Also known as the Mirnawan Cup 2022, the tournament is named after former captain of the national hockey squad, Datuk Mirnawan Nawawi. It is organised by the Malaysia Hockey Confederation in collaboration with the National Sports Council. For the men's under-17 category, the tournament has attracted 5 teams from the National Hockey Development Program and 3 international teams from India, Japan and Singapore. While for the women's under-14 category, 5 teams under the NHDP and 2 teams from India and Singapore are taking part. National Sports Council Director General Dato Ahmad Shapawi Ismail said the international meet is an ongoing effort by the Council to ensure that the national hockey team is not short of new talent who could carry the country's challenge at the international level.
NHDP lah untuk melahirkan atau menyediakan platform untuk pelatih-pelatih hoki dapat dilatih ataupun dibentuk bakat mereka dalam satu struktur DNA ataupun modul yang lebih sama, yang seragam. Dan mereka ini akan dilatih oleh jurulatih-jurulatih yang kita lantik.
And on to the World Cup. Brazil outclassed Serbia 2-0 in their World Cup opener early today as Richarlison's second-half goals, including a spectacular overhead kick, propelled the 5-times champion to the top of Group G. Tite's decision to go with 4 forwards, Neymar, Vinicius Jr., Raphinha and Richarlison, in his attacking lineup paid off handsomely as the South Americans dominated. Meanwhile, in a Group H match, Uruguay faltered in their World Cup opener against a lively and energetic South Korea after they were held to a goalless draw in a contest where both teams struggled to find the clinical edge despite plenty of attacking quality on show.
City stage.
Meanwhile, Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo shrugged off his bitter split with Manchester United to claim yet another record as he became the first player to score in 5 World Cups, with a penalty to help steer his side to a nervy 3-2 win over Ghana. The first half, apart from defend deeply, but gave their noisy bank of fans in the 974 stadium something to cheer when Andre Ayew equalised in the 73rd. And that ends updates at noon. Wrapping up with a reminder of our top story, Prime Minister to solidify position with a vote of confidence. Tune in to News at 10 coming up at 10 p.m. on my Salura and Berita RTM. Another reminder for everyone, next Monday is declared a public holiday, so do enjoy the long weekend. I'm Mona Priya. Thank you for your company.